Welcome back to One Piece Anime Re-Review Part 30A. Now, I'm discussing some episodes, some of the watch, but I have watched in the past. But basically with this one, I'm going to go basically review from 490 to 504. Even though, yes, you are thinking, wait, you watched 15 episodes in less than a few hours? Well, no. I basically skipped over episodes 494 to most of 504 for good reason. It's basically a flashback of basically how Ace first met Luffy. And of course, they made it with the character Sabo. Yes, he was first mentioned in the Marineford arc. Yeah, he pretty much is a kid. Now, by the way, he does appear in present day. Don't worry, he's perfectly fine. Though I will get to basically in a minute basically what's on with him. His attire is... Here's the thing about this character. This attire never changes. Basically wears a big hat. Yeah, he's one of like two characters in the series who's notorious for wearing a particular hat. He basically dresses like a nobleman, despite the fact he lives like a normal person. And they also do show up, they have the scene in here of, they do show again, well I remember, is that they do have Luffy and Ace basically exchanging a cup of sake with each other, and then with Sabo declaring him their sworn brother. Now, Luffy is brought to a basically group of criminals, well, Domara I think her name is, where basically she first raised Ace, and then she raised Luffy for a little over 10 years. And pretty much they all decided to basically become pirates and at different times. Sabo went first, then Ace, then Luffy. That's the simple gist of it. I think Sabo is like a year older than Ace. I know Luffy's younger than Ace by about 3 years. Now, in the flashback, we do see, now if I remember, in the flashback, there's like 3 characters who do appear in present day, who do appear in the flashback. Dragon appears. Yes, when Sabo himself, basically, before he gets to how when he sets out, they do have like they form like a tree house. Initially, Ace and Sabo didn't want to hang out with Luffy, but they started hanging out anyways. Become really close friends and brothers. When it came to Sabo go home, Luffy wanted his brother back, and people were like, "What are you talking about?" And Sabo himself did come back. He did run away from his family. Because the thing is, Sabo's family are basically they're basically part of the ruling family that ruled the kingdom where Luffy's home village is. Which is commonly referred to as Windmill Village. I think its name is Gatsu Village, I guess, but it's commonly referred to as Windmill Village because the fact that it's had windmills in it. Though, according to Luffy in East Blue, the windmills are actually smaller than the one that appeared in that one. And they fight, but they do get him back. So, they initially set out to sea. Well, Sabo sets out first, though he's quite young when he sets out, though he nearly gets killed by a celestial dragon, who just out for basically doing target practice, and he happens to shoot Sabo's boat and Ace and Luffy for years. Now, Luffy does find out later in Dressrosa that he's actually alive. Ace never finds out that Sabo is alive. Sabo is later found by Dragon. Yes, Dragon. And he's taken in by him to basically become sort of an adopted son to him and become his chief of staff of the Revolutionary Army. Oh yeah, and also Ivankov was with him too because he's revolutionary. And we do see briefly in the flashback Zoro, because why not? And he just happened to be nearby the village where Zoro was actually training. As far as I can tell for this, I don't think Dragon ever met Zoro when he was a kid. No, he just happened to be in the village. Just by sheer coincidence, they probably did run into each other. Yeah, as for the present day stuff, well, they do get a big debriefing basically happened in Impel Down. What happened on the 6th level, where Blackbeard ordered all the prisoners to fight each other to the death, and whoever survives joins the crew. Basically, the 4 people who join his crew, basically the Crest Moon Hunter, the Crooked King, the Battleship, and the Heavy Drunkard, they join his crew. There were other survivors who actually escaped, and very dangerous criminals. Now, Sengoku is debriefed by this by someone who works for the Navy and he wanted to basically get these people out, get recaptured quickly, put out warrant posters for them, and basically he's told that he can't exactly do that because under the rules of the world government keep this hush hush, and he's like, I don't care, do it. That's his basically his thinking. As in the case of Hancock, well, she meets up with Luffy. And well, basically meets up with Lost Submarine. Of course, Lost Submarine does surface, and just by sheer coincidence, there's Hancock's snake. And then Hancock jumps down and asks and talks to, well, how's Luffy? Of course, he didn't give him a grandson. And all basically says he's stable. And okay, and he's like, I gotta contact my ship. And she's like, you, Fuzzy Bear, give me a Transmar snail. He's like, yes, ma'am. Of course, he has the fuzzy one, which I thought was so hilarious. The fact that she referred to Beppo, a mink, as a fuzzy one. Of course he's fuzzy. He's a bear. I'm sure the girls basically will find him so fluffy and soft. Though he's actually very caring about Law and the whole crew. And he does occasionally give Law orders, but not to the point where he would boss. He's basically, he's a submarine's navigator, and he doesn't like submarines very much. Despite the fact he's wearing a jumpsuit. He also doesn't like the fact that Law, he had no problem with Law inviting a former pirate captain join the crew. He didn't like the fact that he was giving him orders. Yep. And so they contact the Kaiju pirates, and then someone to basically jump over to Law's ship. And also we see Ivankov jumps down too. Is, oh yeah, we're actually friends. Now, I don't remember them actually. Now, for what I remember, because I thought this was quite strange. They don't show the scene where Hancock meets these people. Because she's just basically racing off. And then we have it where, oh yeah, they just have to be on board this particular Navy ship hiding out. And they're friends of Luffy's. I must have missed that because I did watch the entire episode. I don't think I missed anything for that one. No, nothing I can think of. So, the friends of Luffy, I don't remember if, in fact, that, well, now, as far as I can tell, Ivankov doesn't tell Hancock that he's not only a friend of Luffy, he's also in Luffy's father, Dragon. Does mention it at all. But, okay, so they basically take Luffy back to Amazon Lily. Okay. And they try to take him, to the castle so he can heal it personally. But Law, who is the doctor, but apparently the advisor, it's like, no, no, no. Now, Hancock is a ruler. Why the heck is the old lady who is not actually a ruler giving the orders? That makes no freaking sense at all. I mean, I get the fact she's got a lot of authority, but she's not the ruler of the freaking island. It's Hancock. Hancock's the ruler, not her. So, they can't bring in the island, but try to okay, no problem with Luffy, can't have the other guys. So, hide out in the bay, but they do leave a little strip of land they can actually sit down on. We're not going to the island, so they do have these little barriers. These are the same type of barriers they use whenever Hancock takes a bath. Yes, the same ones. And of course, the women do come out and bring out food. I don't remember the tall one who's a giant. She basically talks very nice to the guys. The guys treat the ladies with good amount of respect. They're all lovey-dovey because a lot of these ladies are smoking hot. Law himself does nothing. He doesn't go lovey-dovey over all the ladies. Margaret goes over to him and asks how's Luffy because he can wake up yet. He's like, no. And then eventually, of course, Jinbei, he of course gets out. Of course, he meets up. He doesn't talk technically. He says he will take care of Luffy, no problem. And so, that when Luffy wakes up, he is going on a rampage. And he ends up running to jungle. And he does not go into the village. He just runs to the jungle, goes on a rampage because he's not believing that Ace is dead. Though eventually he's told by Jinbei, yeah, he's dead. And that'll be that. Then, before we get back to the present day stuff, because we have a flashback with episode 493, we have a crossover episode. Yep. 492 is in fact a crossover with Toriko. Which, this is something quite strange. Okay, on the Funimation website, if you look up the English dub, they skip over this episode. There's a reason for that. they don't have the license to dub the series anymore. Nope. Yeah, I had to go to like a different website in order to watch this crossover. It's a good crossover. Now, according to Todd Heppercorn, he told me the reason why the dub stopped for the series, despite the fact there's no official reason why they stopped. I don't think Funimation has ever stated exactly why, but according to Heppercorn, he told me that the reason why the dub stopped for Toriko was because of low DVD sales. That was the reason why for that, and that's the reason why they lost the dub. That they couldn't dub anymore. They only dubbed like 50 episodes of the series. They didn't dub very far before they had to stop. I think the official episode they stopped at was, I think it was officially like episode 52. That was the last episode they dubbed, because 51 was also a crossover with One Piece. But in my opinion, if they ever got back the license to dub Toriko, I would probably just start with the One Piece crossovers, because there's 3 of them. This is the first one. This one starts out with basically the Straw Hats. Now this is something quite interesting though. Now if you watch the series for One Piece, you can kind of easily place where this particular cross takes place. From the perspective of this is before the events of Sabaody, and definitely after, because the thing is, now Brook himself basically doesn't do anything in this episode. It's mostly these following characters do something in this episode: Luffy, Nami, Chopper, and Sanji. These 4 are the only ones who actually do participate in a lot of the action in this episode. And they do show off the Toriko characters, which I'll get to that. First we have the Straw Hats. Basically they run out of food, so they just happen to wander a different sea. I could possibly theorize that the storm they basically went through basically took them to the world of Toriko. Though once they finished the arc, they went back to the world, and then they went back to Toriko for the next 2 crossovers. Yeah, in the case, this one, they do kind of explain how they get over to the world of Toriko. The other 2, they just kind of completely random. So, they come to an island, they just basically just have Luffy, Nami, Sanji, and Chopper. Just go to the island, and then they come across a tree full of meat. Because Luffy's got an obsession with meat. So, speaking of meat, Hancock decides to cook Luffy some food when he woke up. So, and of course, he's like, that's fine. No problem cooking food. But of course, he can't go see it. For some reason, he kept blocking to see him. Which I'll get to more of that later. So, he's me for a while. And then we see, hands come out of the... Ooh, this must be a piece of food. Let's try to eat it. Okay. And then Luffy gets in a brief fight with Toriko over Chopper. And, of course, both Toriko and Komatsu. Yeah, this is basically, technically, here's the thing about this crossover I should mention. The first part of this crossover is actually, believe it or not, episode 1 of the Toriko anime. No joke, it seriously is. Because technically, when they adapt the first chapter of the manga, that's actually saved for episode 2. I get kind of the reason why they did this. Now, the reason why this crossover happened because the writer of Toriko and Oda are actually really good friends. So, they did this crossover, and I've talked to a friend of mine. Even though he's not really a big fan of the Toriko anime, he does agree that the crossovers One Piece are really good. And I agree too. The way Toriko anime ended was so disappointing. Because a lot of people, from the criticism I heard, was that the ending was so disappointing. Because he had Toriko sort of Super Saiyan in order to defeat one of the villains of the series. I'm like, really? That's not how he finished this arc. Though some say that that ending in the anime killed the manga. That's the story I've heard of why the manga ended when it did, was because the Toriko anime basically kind of screwed up the ending of the first half of the series for their time skip. So, they basically mention the whole thing, they mention the whole thing about capture levels, which is something that's part of the Toriko anime. Yeah, they mention a lot of stuff. They mention about the IGF, which is kind of like a big food organization. That's something also from Toriko as well. And they come across various animals. First, they come across barbecue pigs. Yes, barbecue pigs. And even though they got mad, they burned meat. They beat them easily. Basically, just Toriko It's basically Toriko, Luffy, and Sanji. After the beam, they basically eat them. And basically, Toriko is looking for a hungry bird, which and they come across it a bit later. So they end up walking, and then they come across some horned bears. And Luffy's like, "Can we fight him?" He's like, "Nah, don't need to fight him. Just run away." Because Toriko has a policy: if he's not going to eat it, he will not harm the creature. And plus, it's an edible, so it can't eat it anyway. So, and then eventually, just by sheer coincidence, they just happen to come across the hungry bird. And when Luffy tries to punch it, it turns out that the feathers are actually hard as steel. And Toriko brings out his human weaponry, where he turns his left hand into a fork and a right hand. I think he turns his hands into a fork and knife. And nobody's like, a metallic sound. And then basically, thanks to his hands, they're able to defeat the hungry bird, and then they eat the damn thing. And then next they just go through, and of course they kind of run through a field of hot chocolate of all things as geysers. And they fall like, oh crap, because of their fruits they think go slim. And it turns out this was actually just whipped cream. And they get to the shore, everything was perfectly fine. And they come across Castle Leos, which use sponges to act like speakers. They defeat one, no problem, but there's actually 5 more. And then we hear a voice, and it's Sunny, the one who's self-proclaimed the most beautiful of the 4 Heavenly Kings. Yeah, that's something that's associated with Toriko. Toriko is referred to as the glutton of the 4 Heavenly Kings. Sunny is the most beautiful one. We also have Kokoro, who is the gentleman of the 4. He's also the poison one. And there's also Zamasu, who is the sound. And he's also got a torn cheek that at one point Toriko did try to sew up, but he ripped it anyways. The only reason why he's like that because of his voice. And not only Sunny and Kokoro are here, but also Sunny's beautiful sister Ren, who's in love with Toriko. Yep, they show that off here. They don't do much of anything here, like they just briefly show up just to distract the main characters, such as defeat the Castle Leos, and then they help. And then they show up later on to help the others. But the thing is, the reason why they're running after this particular way because, well, Komatsu and Nami cannot buy Coca-Colas. Basically, Coca-Colas. Koalas. And so they come across this multi-fruit, and it turns out that when they get up there, they beat the Coca fruits. And of course, they mention also that the Coca-Cola, the Coco Koalas, grow to be knockout koalas. And thanks to a brief battle they have with them, of course, Toriko loses his shirt. Yeah, that's something that apparently that Toriko borrows a lot from frickin' Goku. Yeah, losing a shirt in a battle. Like if Luffy does pick up that trait. Though apparently, here's the thing about Toriko. I would say his bulk is from Goku, along with the fact he's a massive eater. And he's a damn good fighter. Though they don't mention who actually taught him about the fight at the start of it. They do mention like a few others. There's technically no character who's equivalent to Master Roshi in Toriko. Toriko is basically like, well, just a character who was modeled after Goku. A lot of characters are modeled after Goku. He's one of 3 that I can think of. The other 2 are Luffy and Naruto. Luffy because of the hair and the fact he's somewhat of an idiot. Naruto because of his look and appearance. And the fact Kishimoto, the fan who created Naruto, has admitted to be a big DBZ fan, so it's obvious the fact that he based him on frickin' Goku. So after beat the Qualist, and it turns out that according to Ren, who mentions that the legendary green they were looking for, I also mentioned about the whole thing of Toriko having a life course menu, his full course menu, which he's not actually made yet. Yeah, they mentioned it first mentioned here, but he builds over the course events of the series. Now, he does, at the time of the time skip of the series, he's got most of it done. He's got a few, he got like a soup, a drink, and hors d'oeuvre. He's got a few things, but he completes it by the end of the series. He's one of 2 who actually who's completed the full course meal. The other course being, I think it was Sunny. Yeah, he was the yellow one. The other two never completed theirs. So they basically went off to space to complete theirs because, well, they had to actually go to space in the series. So they mentioned the whole thing is like a big, like the whole island is revealed to be a, let's just say, a banana split ice cream. So Luffy and Toriko eat the whole island, and of course they get some food supplies, and then they go off, and then we see Brook, Frankie, Zoro, basically the rest of the Straw Hat crew. They look at the cast, Toriko, like, who the heck are these people? Now, I get why Brook is not used here, because you can easily point out that this is before Saba Odi, so that's the reason why he doesn't participate. As in the case of the rest, don't know why they don't participate. It's completely unknown. But Robin does participate in the next one, along with Zoro. But that'll be handled with the Fishman Island stuff. Yep. And, well, that's simply it to talk about when it comes to these episodes of One Piece. Yeah, I know I kind of briefly touched upon the flashbacks, but I skipped over them because I wasn't really interested, but I do remember them somewhat, okay? But for B, I will discuss episodes 505 to 513. Roughly 9 episodes. I'll discuss that in part, and basically B, okay? So yeah, that's it for this particular review. My next review and my last review for today will be a Comic Corner. Yep. Looking forward to talking about this one, okay? To the next video. Bye.